So I saw two types of materials. One, I can say, looks like kind of metallic frog skin. I have to tell you a little bit about how we came about this. So I've written 2 books about it. I wasn't a believer. So when I went there, I even wasn't a believer. I was like, I think they're trying to give me misinfo. Something's going on.
Right.
Maybe they really believe this. Well, they both really believed this. I know that for sure. So Tyler's taking us. We had to wear blindfolds. We drive to a certain place. He says, put the blindfolds on. We had to leave our cell phones. We couldn't take any technology with us. It takes about an hour to get out to the site. We're blindfolded. We get out to the site. We were wearing, I guess there's rattlesnakes out there. And so we have to wear certain boots and, things like that. So we get out, we take our blindfolds off. And the first thing I do is I look around because it looks really familiar to me, even though I've never been out there. And Tyler looked at me and he said, looks familiar, doesn't it? And I said, yeah. And he said, you've seen it in the X-Files. What? He goes, they had an insider on their team. This actually fits into my research that we learn everything we do about religion from media. But how did we get this stuff? So he actually did have metal detectors that were configured for specific types of metals. He had these built.
Is there a scientific term for these particular types of metals?
They're called metamaterials. I think that's just a fancy word for saying we don't know what this is.
And they're layered in some sort of a way where it's like atom upon atom.
Well, I don't actually know the science. I just know what these guys tell me because they're doing the research at their laboratories.
These people are very cagey about it. It's almost like they don't want to blurt out too much because it'll cut off access.
But I know that the reason that I don't want to is there's some type of national security issue, and I am an American. There's something like that going on. Especially
if someone else can figure out how to use these things. So when you go to this site, do you see the physical ground where this thing hit?
Yeah, so
what does it look like?
At this point, the whole site is covered with rubble that looks like rusted rubble. It's not sand. So there's the sand of the desert, and then there's this rubble everywhere.
Gravel?
Yeah, it's like gravel. And so I asked Tyler, what's this? And he said that after the government retrieved the crash, they didn't want anyone out here looking. So what they did, they dropped a bunch of tin cans out here in the 1950s, and these have disintegrated down into this rubble.
Well, the strategy for disseminating disinformation along with real info long been used, where they'll say a bunch of really ridiculous things and connect them to something that's probably real. And that way, everything gets thrown out.
But we were out there all day. So we were out there for probably 10 hours. At many points in the day, Gary and I would go aside and kind of confer, is this a setup, And so he goes, well, let's just try to find some stuff and I'll analyze it.
Do you notice that the ground has been disturbed, an indication that something hit there?
Yes. Tyler took us and showed us everywhere. Like, he's been a part of this retrieval site for 40 years or so. And he knows the people, the story, and everything like that. So he gave us a tour of the whole place. We found parts, by the way, and some of the parts were so deep down into the ground. There were rocks and things like that. And Gary, he's putting his hand down there hours at this one place trying to get something. He found some things there. And I thought, if people are trying to fool us and put things down, they did a really good job. What's interesting to me is that after we found these things and we did all this kind of data collection and everything at the site, very much like anthropologists do, by the way, documenting what we found, when we found it, putting into special containers. Then I was like, I don't want this. I don't want any of this stuff. And they both looked at me and laughed.